Good evening, race fans, and welcome back after a little bit of a hiatus to the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Tonight, we kick off season number 13 of competition here at the Daytona International Raceway for the first time here in league history. Not quite the first time that the league has ever been to Daytona itself, but the first time it has ever used the oval layout. 20 times now that ASRC has visited this track in total. Of course, this league has been around since 2017 as a road course racing league, and Daytona has been an absolute staple of competition in the road series. But now tonight, kicking things off for the first time at this 2.5 mile oval for round one of competition. And of course, tonight, continuing the trend of what we did last season with having multiple, four, I guess is the better way to put it, four races out of the 12 will be double points races mirroring the real life links of the Arca Menards races that go on in the real world. And of course, this is going to be one of them. 200 miles is the distance here this evening at Daytona. It's going to be a bit of a long haul for these drivers, and I'll tell you what a crazy field it's going to be because we have currently 19 drivers signed up for tonight's event. Almost half of them are new faces here to the league, so it is bound to be one heck of an evening here tonight. That said, drivers just about making their way on down the starting grid. So how about we take a look down there and see how things are shaking up for this evening's lineup. Starting out on the pole of tonight's event in the number 58 SM Racing's product machine, that's going to be rookie driver Jonathan Cofield out of Munford, Alabama, starting out on the pole here with a 49.221 to his name. Starting his outside, going to be league admin Mr. Jason Gardner, rocking a new paint scheme here this evening. Going to be coming out in the Nesquik entry here tonight. Back in position number 3, it's going to be a little bit of that wild card driver who we saw take home the win at the very first race. No, excuse me, not quite who I thought it was. It's Bill Watkins starting off in position number 3. I got him mixed up with someone else here. He's going to be running in the Sharpie entry here this evening. Starting in position number 4, excuse me, is the driver I was looking for, Mr. Jason Mong in the Hershey's Racing Entries engine. Won the first race last season, now starting on the second row here to Daytona. He could be looking to win the first race of this season as well. Starting back in the 5th position in the number 44 entry, that's going to be Mr. Mike Young, rounding out the top 5 here in qualifying. Starting his outside, it's going to be none other than 4-time champion Mr. Brian Sabelski in the number 85 machine in that Makoni Setup Shop Nihon Tiger entry. Starting back in position number 7, still unsponsored here this season, running in the all-black number 78. That's going to be Mr. Derek Murphy, rolling it off in P number 7. 8th place going to go back to part of the SM Racing Products team. That's going to be the 74 of Mr. Jeremy Morrow out of Topeka, Kansas, rolling it off position number 8. Starting right behind him in position number 9, that's going to be last season's champion, Mr. Garrett Streets, rolling it off in position number 9, also out of Topeka, Kansas in the SM Racing entry. Back in position number 10, that's the do-it-yourself 00, the driver out of Mechanicsville, Maryland. That's going to be Garrett Hess, rolling it off position number 10. 11th place going to go back to our runner-up in the championship standings last season. That's going to be the Beefy Motorsports number 38 Liqui Moly entry of Brandon Feeney, rolling it off position number 11. Starting his outside, going to be another driver out of Canada. That's going to be Mr. Michael Sparks, rolling it off position number 12 in the Mountain Dew entry. Back in position number 13, that's going to be Mr. Jay DeVries in the number 96 Blaster entry, followed by the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan, the driver out of Newen, Georgia. Back in 15th, that's going to be the number 62 of TJ Henson in the South Point entry, followed by another rookie driver. That's going to be the 45 of Shane Wyatt, who set the fastest time in practice in the SimRap Market entry. Back in number 17, that's going to be another Canadian driver. That's going to be the 4 of Mr. Daniel Sparks, also unsponsored here this evening, followed by another rookie driver. That's going to be the 01 of Derek Houston and the 52 of Lucas Lyons, who made his first start in the final event of season number 12. Going to be rounding out this 19 car field here, back in position number 19. What a big field we have coming out here to Daytona. What a crazy race it's going to be. 80 laps should be up on the docket here as these drivers get ready to take the green flag. Sure enough, green flag up in the air here at Daytona. Everyone off to a pretty solid start, but oh no, a little bit of a connection issue right off the bat for our pole sitter of Jonathan Cofield. He gets it back in line, running A-okay, pulling away just a little bit from the field, but not quite. Of course, this is Daytona, and in a relatively low-powered car at that. Of course, it's not fair for me to say this is a low-powered car, period. A little bit of trouble there, as it looks like Mike. Oh, trouble. That's TJ Henson around onto the infield just like that, down the backstretch. Lap number 1. She gets the car brought to a stop. Not going to make an impact to the tire barrier, but getting back up there is going to be difficult for the driver of that number 62 machine. The rest of the field all still in the pack, all over the place here, coming down the front stretch. We're only one lap into this thing, and we're already making contact, beating and banging, almost four wide here at Daytona on lap number 2. Who has that? That's Garrett Hess up there way on the high line in the do-it-yourself entry. He was nearly 4 wide with the 2 SM Racing Products drivers just in front of him, and it looks like that might have been Derek Murphy in that situation as well. Everyone still has it rolling in the right direction right now for the most part. TJ Henson is still out on the speedway, but currently 17 seconds back from the rest of the field. She is going to need a caution to make that ground back up. It is simply not possible to make ground here without at least one other car to draft with. And speaking of drivers, way up at the front, there is the number 52 machine of Lucas Lyons, the driver we were just talking about in the intro. Made his first start of the league at all last season back at Pocono, the final race of the season. Currently up plus 17 positions in the 52 machine right now. Not entirely sure how he managed to go from last to front in 3 laps, but here he is running up right on the rear bumper of Jonathan Cofield. Both of these drivers new additions to the SM Racing Products team, and guess who's right behind? Sure enough, that's last season's champion. Also for SM Racing Products, that's going to be Garrett Streets in that lime green 15 numbered car. So it looks like the whole SM Racing Products team now more than ever have a brand new clean palette to be working with here tonight. And sure enough, there's also Jeremy Morrow right behind as well. So all 4 of the SM Racing Products teammates running the high line here, trying to use a little bit of teamwork, because I'll tell you what, Daytona International Speedway, more than any other track on the schedule, this is where you need to have friends in order to succeed. And right now it is 1, 2, 3, 4 for the SM Racing Products team up at the front of the field. Streets and Morrow in the white SM Racing Products cars, Cofield and Lyons in the black SM Racing Products cars. Then just behind it's going to be Jason Gardner and Garrett Hess trying to figure out what they're going to be doing here. Jason Gardner up there following that high line, still 2 by 2. Pretty much all throughout the field here this evening. Getting a little bit spread out further back at the tail end of the high line. It looks like the leader of that second little bit of group there is Michael Sparks in the 42 Mountain Dew entry. Trying to make the high line work. Right behind him is Daniel Sparks. Of course, family members in the 42 and 3. Another instance, or excuse me, 42 and 4. That is not the 3 that Daniel Sparks is in. But this is another instance of where having friends is going to be very beneficial here in tonight's event. You need a drafting partner if you want to make anything to work here, especially in these Arco Menards cars that are a little bit lower powered than the bigger and beefier NASCAR machines that take to this speedway at the beginning of every year. Now, I'll tell you what, it's only about a month and a half until the real world Daytona 500. So nice to be kicking off the season here at Daytona. First time the ASRC Oval Series has ever been here, and I'll tell you what a crazy show they have put on in just the first 6 laps here. Now that things are starting to settle down just a teeny tiny little bit though, how about we take a quick look back at what happened to TJ Henson, who is still on the speedway right now with no damage. A little bit too far forward for what we're looking for here. We might have to break out the blimp camera here to see what all's going on. And already there's contact from behind. That's what the number 4 of Daniel Sparks just gets into the rear end of her, gets it lifted up and around. But she manages to get stopped without making any sort of contact with any of the walls, so she is good to go. Maybe with a little bit rougher tires than she would like, but she is still good to go for the remainder of this race. Still looking at the battle up at the front of the field. It is 2x2 all the way back. Jonathan Cofield, currently our race leader, and his pusher right behind Lucas Lyons is getting a little bit wiggly there. Just a little bit sketchy, but they are making it work here tonight, and I'll tell you what, there were some drivers a little bit apprehensive about the idea of drafting here tonight, potentially even bump drafting if you're risky enough. But if you're in it to win it, you can just barely make it work, and I feel like if anyone's going to be able to make it work, it is these SM Racing Products teammates running the show up here 1, 2, 3, and 4. Jason Gardner right behind in that Nesquik number 93. He's trying to make something happen here up on the high line, but right now the big key factor here is just going to be being patient. There's still a long way left to go here tonight. We are only 9 laps in the books out of 80. This is a 200-mile event. Pit stops are going to have to be made. They do not have fuel to make it to the end. And of course, tires also going to be playing a factor here as well. One driver way up into the outside wall. That was Daniel Sparks there, pushing it a little bit harder out of corner exit than maybe he intended to. Still keeping up with the pack though. Still right behind Michael Sparks, just in front of him in the Mountain Dew entry. A little bit further up in the field, up in ninth, that's going to be Mr. Brandon Feeney, runner-up in the championship last season in that Liqui entry. Was only 1 point above Brian Sabelski. Did not quite have the run he was hoping for at Pocono. Finished outside of the top 5. The only one of the championship contenders to finish outside of the top 5. But he said it himself. He has nothing to lose here in this league. He comes here immediately after finishing another league just an hour prior. So running a doubleheader each and every week, probably pretty exhausting for that driver, that 38 machine. So managing to pull off a second place finish in the overall championships back in season number 12 is a pretty good job overall. Right now, currently running back in the 8th position, side by side with Jason Gardner, who has fallen back a little bit. It looks like that outside line is losing a little bit of momentum here. And watch out, drivers, because here in the next lap or two, we are going to see this pack catch up on that lap car of TJ Henson. No damage on that South Point entry right now, but you never know what might happen when you have 2 trains of cars coming up right behind you, going substantially faster than you are with the power of aerodynamics. And sure enough, here they come up behind the number 62. How is this going to shake out? Currently still running down on the low line. Will she pull it up high? Yes, she will. It's going to be a little bit of 3-wide racing here, but that's no big deal. We saw them go 4-wide earlier on in tonight's event, so clearly everything should be a-okay here. Sure enough, Henson keeps it up high right where she needs it to be. Everything is a-okay there. And I imagine we're going to see her pull down into this high line here. At least try and have the momentum going so she doesn't go down a second lap. Of course, lucky dogs are a thing here in the ASRC Oval Series. So should a caution flag come out, Henson currently is in position to be put back on the lead lap here this evening. And I mean, With how close and how wobbly some of these drivers are, it is bound to happen inevitably. But I'll tell you what, race fans, they've done a pretty good job so far. 13 laps in the books, only one minor incident with no damage and no yellow flag thrown. Some new names driving their way up to the front of the field side by side for the two Garrett, Streets and Hess, battling it out for third and fourth position. Streets up high in the 00 do-it-yourself entry. No, Hess, excuse me, is up high. Streets is down low. Hess only brought it home, I believe, in 10th in the championship standings last season, but Hess had 3 wins to his name back in season number 12, was only able to compete part-time, but still managed to take home 3 wins. And talking to him at the end of last season, he is saying he's hoping to make it full-time this time around. And with the impressive displays we've seen him pull off, he might just be able to put his name in the record book here this season. Last season took home the win back at the Pocono Raceway for the championship event. Also took home the win at the Tsukuba Circuit and USA International Speedway. So he got a super speedway under his belt, a short track under his belt, and a road course under his belt. Seems like there's nothing that this 00 can't handle except managing to attend every single race. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that 00. See just how he manages to perform here this season. Like I say, there's a lot of drivers here in this field we need to keep our eyes on, because especially in the latter half of season number 12, we saw a bunch of new names and faces putting on incredible runs against longtime veterans of the series. Lucas Lyons, of course, leading this race right now for the SM Racing Products team, up plus 18 spots right now. He was potentially in the running to win the race at Pocono at the championship event last season, but was involved in an incident in the final couple of laps. The Lions is a driver we need to keep an eye on. Of course, Garrett Streets, champion last season, looking to try and make it number 2. Is a big move out of Garrett Hess there. Down almost onto the apron, manages to hold on to it. Hess, Streets, all been putting on impressive runs. Couple of wild cards here as well. Brand new drivers we have never seen compete here in the league, running up inside the top 5 and up inside the top 10 right here. Cofield and Wyatt, both brand new to ASRC. Further back in the field, down at the tail end, Jay DeVries and Mike Young both took home, Mike Young took home a win at the Southern National Speedway last season, and that was in, I believe, his first ever start that he managed to make that happen. And his friend of Mr. Jay DeVries also has been running really well. But of course only showed up with about 3 races left to go in the championship. Speaking of 3 things left to go, 3 wide here for the lead at Daytona. Why not? We are 3 wide, 3 cars deep. Why not? We're only 17 laps in the books, but you know what? That's basically halfway, right? I mean, 17 out of 80. Do the math here. I'll tell you what, these race car drivers aren't, not one little bit. All they care about is winning this race. And of course, there is the bonus points for both leading laps and for leading the most laps. So all of these drivers are still battling for points, even this early on in the race. A little bit of trouble further back in the back. That's Garrett Street scraping up against the outside wall in that SM Racing Products number 15 machine. That's the second time now. Oh, trouble. They're making big contact up at the front. There is a driver around. There are multiple drivers down in the infield. Caution flag is out on the speedway. Lucas Lyons down on the infield. A couple drivers also down there. It looks like Jason Mong, Daniel Sparks might have ended up involved in that as well. Shane Wyatt potentially also down there in that incident. A little bit of front end damage for Lucas Lyons, but all things considered, that was a lot less disastrous than it had the potential to be there. Let's try and take a look back, see if we can't see what all just went down right then. Let's see here. I think once again, we're going to have to zoom this thing out a little bit to try and break down what all went down. Gonna put it on the slow-mo cam too, just for good measure. We got word Jason Mong was involved, but it looks like it started with the 3 wide up there with Garrett Hess. And it looks like Jonathan Cofield and also the 45 of Lucas Lyons. Hess, a little bit of contact into the 25, into the 45. Everyone nearly manages to save it, but not quite able to for that 45 machine. That's actually Shane Wyatt there. That was up on the high line that got bumped around. Tries to hang on to it. Hess down, or no, that's Bill Watkins swerving to avoid the inside barrier. And just a little bit of an impact, it looks like, for Lucas Lyons. So that might have been a little bit of damage there. But all things considered, that was a lot better than it potentially could have been there. And no, it actually looks like Lucas might have avoided the barrier there. It still looks like he has a little bit of damage to the front end, but I think that Lucas managed to avoid the tire barrier there. Sure enough, caution flag out on the field, and let's take it to the tail end. Yup, every single driver except Brandon Feeney is going to be making the call to come down pit lane, and I'll tell you what, name a more typical Brandon Feeney move than staying out when the entire rest of the field decides to pit. TJ Henson going to be getting the lucky dog, so she is going to go around the pace car there. But the entire rest of the field, they're all on pit lane right now. Why not? It looks like there's potentially a driver around there. That looks like that might have been... Let's see here. That might have been, yeah, that's the 65 of Jason Mong. It looks like Jason might have actually spun coming in down onto pit lane. Let's take a quick look back here. If we can find it. Let's see here. It looked like there was trouble for Jason. If not, he was just coming in at a really weird angle. No, I guess everything's fine for that 65 machine. I guess just from the camera angle, it made it look like he was down in the grass, but everything's A-okay for him. Jumping back to the front of things, Brandon Feeney is still committed to the bit. He is still going to stay out on the speedway. Right behind is going to be Garrett Hess, excuse me, winning the battle off of pit lane. That's going to be Michael Sparks, Jonathan Cofield, Daniel Sparks rounding out our top 5 here. Garrett Streets, Bill Watkins, Jeremy Morrow, Jason Gardner, and Derek Murphy, your top 10 on this restart. And it looks like we have a couple of different varying strategies here down on pit lane. Hess and Sparks, both only 8-second pit stops. And actually, now that I say that, it looks like both of the Sparks family are going to be coming back down onto pit lane, so maybe neither of them are quite satisfied with the strategy they had going first time around. But Garrett Hess, only an 8-second pit stop. Garrett Streets, only a 9-second pit stop. That tells me they both only took fuel under that caution. Cofield, a 14-second pit stop, so he either might have taken a lot more fuel than the rest of the field, or he put tires on. But then we go further down the field. We have drivers that spent 30 and 40 seconds in their pit box, like Jay DeVries, Mike Young, Shane Wyatt, all spending really long time periods down on their pit lane, and that makes me think we might have drivers who took 4 tires under that stop. So a little bit of different ideas all around the field. We're just going to have to see how it shakes out for him when we go green flag racing once again, because the lights are out on the iRacing.com pace car. And we have Mr. Brandon Feeney, the only driver that did not come down pit lane, leading the field with Garrett Hess to his outside in the do-it-yourself 00. I'm not going to fault Feeney, though. Feeney has made the alternate pit strategy work for him in the past. I can't doubt him quite yet. Of course, we have also seen times where the alternate strategy has completely bit drivers in the butt. But this is the first caution of the season, the first pit stops of the season. You gotta get creative with it. Why not? TJ Henson back at the tail end of the field, but she is back on the lead lap, and Lucas Lyons also on the lead lap. Spent 2 minutes down in his pit box, so it does look like Lyons did have some damage he needed repaired. I still don't think that he actually hit the pit exit barrier when he spun out. But regardless, he had to have some sort of damage fixed on that number 52 machine, because there is no regular service that you can do to this car that requires you being in your pit lane for a full 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Regardless, iRacing.com pace car is off. We're going to be going green flag racing once again. Garrett Hess immediately diving it down onto the inside line. Caught the inside line sleeping just a little bit. The rest of the field, they started to think about going down to the low line, but sure enough, Garrett Streets and Jonathan Cofield, both SM Racing Products drivers, immediately pulling up to the high line. They had the high line working for them before. Might as well keep trying the same strategy until it quits working for them. And of course, saying that, immediately, Jonathan Cofield is your new race leader. Garrett Hess looked for a second like he was going to try and push that 38, but nope, not quite. Let's just send it 3 wide instead. Garrett Hess going to try and follow the SM Racing Products crew. See if he can't make the high line work up along with them. Down there on the bottom, Brandon Feeney is all by himself, and he is going to fall way back in the field, all the way back into 5th, and it looks like that 78 of Derek Murphy is just about to pull around him as well. The high line has shown itself to be really dominant here this evening. But there's also a little bit of a big question mark up in the air, because in between the off season of Season 12 and Season 13, iRacing uploaded a pretty substantial rework to how track temperature and track wear changes over the course of the race, and the general consensus is that it has made it so that the optimal line shifts a lot throughout the course of the race. So I'm curious to see if this SM Racing Products crew is going to actually stick to a line here this evening, or if they're just going to be changing it every couple of laps to find what works. Right now, they decided no more high line, let's go down to the bottom. The bottom seems to be where the momentum is. Currently only 2 drivers up there, Garrett Hess and Derek Murphy, all by themselves up on the high line, and they just do not have any energy to work with here. A little bit further back, it looks like pretty much a whole second pack has formed, starting with TJ Henson, then including Lyons, Sparks, Corey Logan, Jason Mong, and Michael Sparks for 14th on back to 19th. Maybe not quite what they were looking for on the restart, but they're all going to have to work together real hard here if they want to catch back up to this lead pack. Because if any one of them gets caught out and loses the draft, that's pretty much it for them, unless another yellow flag comes out. Back up at the front of things, the SM Racing Products crew is leading the way here on lap number 25. Cofield, Streets, and Morrow up in the front. Brandon Feeney going to be the first driver up there, not for the SM Racing Products team. Where is that last driver of the SM Racing Products crew? Where is Mr. Lucas Lyons? Back in 15th right now, so he's still trapped back in that second pack after having to start at the tail end of the field with that incident. Not quite able to skyrocket up plus 17 positions in 2 laps like he did on that initial start here at the beginning of tonight's event. Brandon Feeney pulling it on out to the outside line. They're trying to get some momentum going up there. Pretty much all of these unaffiliated drivers trying to see if they can't figure out some sort of strategy to beat the SM Racing Products team. That's Feeney, Hess. No, that's not Hess. Who is that right behind there? That is the number 45. That is Shane Wyatt right behind Brandon Feeney, and also Derek Murphy, both pushing each other all up to the front. Wyatt, another one of the rookie drivers here tonight, making their first ever debut race with ASRC, riding in the SimRap Market entry. They did set the fastest time in practice. Not quite on the pole here in qualifying, but Wyatt has shown that he has some speed here out here this evening, and is now pushing Mr. Brandon Feeney up to the lead of the race here this evening. Feeney up +10, Wyatt up +13. Both of them having pretty solid runs here this evening, and Feeney should be getting a bonus point for leading at least one lap. If he hasn't already under that caution, he should have for last time by. But still, it's pretty much a battle of an organized team versus 4 drivers that sort of know each other in various capacities. Brandon Feeney, not really new to ASRC anymore. Of course, not his primary league that he competes in. Right behind him, Derek Murphy. He's been here for a little while, but I don't know how well Murphy really knows a lot of these drivers. Of course, I'm not down there listening into their radio conversations during the race, so it's a little bit of a big question mark for all of these drivers up on the outside line. And Garrett Hess is out for himself here as he dives down onto the inside line. He is not working with any loyalties here. Whatever line looks like it is going faster, he is going to dive down into it without any hesitation here. Driving in that do-it-yourself entry, I think we've seen Garrett Hess change lanes more times than any other driver here in the field right now. Got quite a line going down on the inside line here. Not a lot of help for these 4 up here on the outside. I would not be surprised if once we see the outside line clear the front of the field just a little bit, if we see Hess decide to come up. But look at who is to Hess's outside right now. That is the 62 of TJ Henson, of course, involved in that lap 1 incident, got sent all the way out to the tail end of the field. She has managed to find her way up to 7th now in that South Point entry. A little bit by herself up on the high line. But there are more drivers coming up to the high line further back as well. Derek Houston, rookie driver in that 20 Home Depot entry, and Mike Young in the Mountain Dew Code Red just behind. Drivers are trying to make the outside line work. But after all, if you can't beat them, join them, and that seems to be the general consensus around the field here. Figure out whatever line is going faster at any given time and figure out a way to put yourself up in it. 2 by 2. Pretty much all the way back. We have been a gap back to that second pack that are all... They're all actually working together. We gotta give them credit. Mauling Lion, Sparks, and other Sparks, Daniel and Michael, all working together here to try and get back up to the front of the field. I say that Michael Sparks pulls it out of line in that Mountain Dew number 42. That's not doing himself any favors. And Corey Logan, looks like Corey has lost the draft in that CZ Robotics number 24. They have not a whole lot they can do here but wait for a caution flag to come out or get lapped. 30 seconds back, so they still have a couple of laps to play with before the rest of the field catches up to them. 31 laps in the books, though. 1 pit stop on the table for every driver except TJ Henson and Brandon Feeney, who has still stayed out and is still at the front of this field in that number 38 machine. He does have to be a little bit careful, though, because both not having pit yet and being at the front of the field, he is burning a lot more gas than the rest of the drivers around him. Of course, not having someone in front of you to draft off of means you're going to be burning a little bit more fuel than all of these drivers in line behind you. And when you're the only driver here that didn't have a full tank of gas on that restart, that's a little bit of a dangerous spot to be in. Especially because, let's say Feeney starts to get into the danger zone here with his fuel. I don't quite think he's in there quite yet. But let's say he does. If he doesn't clear Wyatt and Cofield, who's to say they're actually going to let him get down to the low line to get down onto pit lane? That's not a guarantee here. So Feeney, he's in a bit of a dire situation, but if he manages to make it work, it could be monumental for him in the later stages of tonight's event. Once again, though, drivers bailing out on the high line. Everyone's trying to go down low and follow in the footsteps of the SM Racing Products team. Jonathan Cofield still up at the front of this pack. Garrett Streets just behind. Then it's going to be the 74 of Jeremy Morrow. All for the SM Racing Products team. Lucas Lyons still stuck at the tail end of the field, just not able to get the momentum back with those other three drivers to get caught up in the main pack. But still, 3/4 of the SM Racing Products team are up here, leading 1, 2, and 3. Just like that, the outside line gets a little bit of momentum. Once again, Feeney leads the race here on lap number 34, and would you believe it, Garrett Hess driving up to that high line as well, and there's a 78 of Derek Murphy running way up high, almost into the wall, but not quite, but there is a driver into the wall. That is that lap car. That's the 24 of Corey Logan, letting the rest of the field go right on by. And I imagine, just like we saw with TJ Henson, Logan is going to be diving into this pack as soon as possible to try and pick up the draft, try and have some sort of momentum to work with. I don't think it's going to quite be enough. There might be some damage under the hood of that number 24 machine because it is losing ground here. Going 180 by themselves here compared to, let's say, someone up in third. Nearly breaking the 200 mark in an Arca Menards Chevrolet SS. Well, that just shows to show how dire of a situation you're in if you don't have someone to draft with here. It just does not work for you. Speaking of things not working, though, the outside line has completely died back, though. Brandon Feeney has had enough. He has sailed it back down into the low line. And now the SM Racing Products crew lead the field a little bit uncontested here. Shane Wyatt all by himself in that number 45 machine in the SimRap market entry. All things considered, not a bad place to be. I mean, the SM Racing Products team have kept it pretty clean so far, so it might not be terrible to be caught in the middle of them right now. More drivers trying to make the outside line work again, though. Let's see who that is. Looks like that's actually Derek Murphy leading the high line here. Garrett Hess right behind, giving him a push up to the front. The 20 machine of Derek Houston also trying to work his way up there with Mike Young. And also, that's the blaster entry of Jay DeVries. We haven't seen a lot of Jay so far here in tonight's event, but he has made it his way up into this lead pack and is gaining on the other cars of the outside line. So we might see the outside line get some momentum working for him here once again. Of course, we're not even in halfway into tonight's event. There is still a lot of question marks left to go on how this event will fold out in the grand scheme of things. There's always the risk of the big one at Daytona. Of course, I gotta give this field credit. At Talladega, there was only one single caution. And at Talladega, that was actually the race Nico Morelli won. Nico Morelli unable to attend tonight's event here this evening. So that's a big question mark, even more so as to who could win here tonight, because the last season Super Speedway winner is not present here this evening. Derek Murphy, however, looks like he should be picking up a bonus point here for leading at least one lap. He was briefly at the front of the field in the outside line. Falling back just a little bit, and a big move up to the outside line by Carrot Streets. That is not what I was expecting out of that number 15 machine. Maybe this whole teamwork thing has come to an end and they're just trying to battle it out for the race lead now. We're not even halfway in the race, guys. We still got a long way left to go here. Big wiggles up at the front, and once again we find the outside line left out to dry. I'll tell you what, I'm starting to think Garrett Streets was regretting his decision to go up there, because there's all of his teammates driving past. There's Brandon Feeney going on by. Derek Houston also passing him. That outside line just gains and loses momentum on such a crazy pace here. Almost contact there between Murphy and Mike Young there. Little bit hairy here at Daytona as we get ready to go halfway into tonight's event. I think some of these drivers are starting to potentially get a little bit impatient here. Jonathan Cofield, Shane Wyatt both starting to pull away just a little bit. This is probably the biggest pull away we've seen the field have, but both of them go up high to block the outside line. They saw that momentum that Morrow and Streets were building up, and they did not want them to get away with that. Of course, in the same turn, killing the outside line's momentum, that now allows the inside line of Brandon Feeney to get up into this mix here. Basically, it's just a big game of chess going on here up at 195 miles per hour. And a scrape against the wall for Derek Murphy. Manages to keep it in the right direction, but now we're 3 wide here at Daytona. 3 wide once again as Garrett Streets tries to push himself to the front of the field. Jeremy Morrow following just behind, trying to make it work with him, but Streets dives down to the low line. Morrow's caught out without any help in the middle line here. We might start seeing him sink like a brick if he doesn't get help right here, right now, and he's going to get it from the 58 machine. Jonathan Cofield is going to dive down to the middle lane, and immediately he dives back up to the top to the block. 3 wide for the lead, Brandon Feeney, Jeremy Morrow, and Jonathan Cofield. 3 wide for the lead here at Daytona, and we're 3 wide in the second row as well. Wyatt Streets and Houston 3 wide for second. Garrett Hess trying to get his way in here as well. A little bit of contact there between Streets and Feeney. Oh man, this looks like a recipe for disaster brewing up, but they're trying to make it work. 42 laps in the books. Contact again for Streets and Cofield. Streets holds onto it a little bit loose. Gentlemen, let's try and not go 3 wide while we catch up on a lap car here. That is Lucas Lyons. That is the other driver for the SM Racing Products crew. He might be hoping for a pickup from his teammates here, but with how they're driving, he might not be getting any help from them for the rest of tonight's event, because, oh lordy, these drivers are all over the place. Big wiggle up on the high side for the outside line, but they all managed to get around Lucas Lyons without too much difficulty, and Lyons definitely still has front end damage in that 25. Pulls it down low, though. He's trying to get in the draft of this inside line, try and get a little bit momentum to work with, but it doesn't quite looking like it's working for him. With that front end damage, he's just not able to keep the speed that the rest of these cars are happening, which is really unfortunate to see. Up plus 17 at the start of this event, now all the way back down to 18th, a lap down, and right behind him, that's the 85 of Brian Sabelski running back in 13th. That's a driver we have not talked about a whole lot here this season. Sabelski, caution flag out on the speedway. There are drivers around everywhere, and it looks like Brandon Feeney involved. Several drivers all darting down to the infield to avoid Shane Wyatt, Jason Gardner, Mike Young, Bill Watkins, Lucas Lyons, all diving down to the inside line to avoid that caution, but it looks like the main incident was with Brandon Feeney there. Let's see if we can't take a look back, see what all just went down there. Taking a quick look back, where is Mr. Feeney here? Back in that 38, up near the front with Jeremy Morrow to his outside. Let's take a look here, see what all went down. Right behind Garrett Hess and the 58 of Cofield. Coming out of turn number 4, Feeney drifts up into the 74. Both of them big contact. Feeney then comes back down. Tail end of the 45 of, it looks like, Shane Wyatt. And Wyatt might have actually crashed into the pit lane wall. I'm taking another look back at this. I don't know if this quite qualifies as the big one at Daytona. Oh, big impact with the 20 as well. That was the 20 of Derek Houston there. What a crazy incident. Let's go back a little bit further here. And once again, I think we find ourselves having to take a quick look down at the blimp. Not quite far enough back. Hold on here. Taking a look down at the blimp camera, and of course it all started with Mr. Brandon Feeney. Let's slow it down here. Coming out of turn number 4, Feeney goes a little bit lower than he means to. Slight tap against the apron drifts him up the track into the 74. And then that's when everything just kind of falls apart. A lot of the drivers throw into a void, most of them able to do it without really any big incidents. The big issue is when Feeney gets pushed back around into the 45. 45 almost barely manages to save it, and of course that is the 45 of Shane Wyatt. Wyatt goes around into the 20 machine, who fortunately does not look like he picked up too much damage from that. A couple of drivers diving it down onto pit lane, so unfortunately we may see some drivers be getting pit lane penalties here, because that is something that iRacing automatically throws out regardless of intent or context. We'll have to get word from race control on that. Once again, we see almost the entire field electing to come down pit lane, and several drivers still down there. Feeney's down there. Jay DeVries is down there. Shane Wyatt, Derek Houston, all down there getting repairs down on pit lane. Morrow and Logan both also down there for a minute and a half. Looks like both of them had damage they had to get repaired as well. And now, with 45 laps in the books, the front row of the field is going to be Jonathan Cofield, Bill Watkins, Garrett Streets, Derek Murphy, Mike Young, your top 5. Jason Gardner is going to break off and come down onto pit lane. That's going to have Sabelski, Henson, Mong, Sparks, and Sparks, your final top 10 here. Of course, Michael Sparks and Daniel Sparks in 9th and 10th. Garrett Hess also making the call to come back down pit lane here. This will be Hess's 3rd stop under this yellow. I think these drivers are just trying to squeeze as much fuel into that tank as they can and hopefully not have to stop again here this evening. One way or another, lights are out on the iRacing.com pace car, so it's going to be coming all down to this one way or another. Cofield's going to be leading the field once again, and I believe Cofield should have the bonus for most laps led here at this point. That's going to be Bill Watkins in that that's in the Sharpie entry. Mr. Bill Watkins running up in second, only up +1 right now. So Bill Watkins been having a pretty solid night up here, running inside the top 5. Garrett Streets back in 3rd. Derek Murphy 4th, and Mike Young rounding out the top 5. Of course, gotta take a moment to appreciate everyone tuning in here, everyone who has been coming out and supporting the ASRC Oval Series for all this time now. Of course, this season kicks off year 4 of competition in the ASRC Oval Series, and a good chunk of drivers here in this field have been here since season number 1. And just gotta give a big thank you to everyone involved here in ASRC that makes everything happen. Be it drivers, be it people who tune in and watch the races going on, or the people doing the admin work behind the scenes. What a crazy couple of years it has been, and what a crazy way to kick off year number 4. None other than a double points race at the Daytona International Speedway. iRacing pace car is going to be diving it down into the safety of pit lane. We're going to be trying this thing again. Garrett Streets and Jonathan Cofield going to be your front row. So the SM Racing Products team still up at the front here, and both of them starting to get a little bit of headway over the field. Rising up through the gears, these little cars don't have a lot of torque to them to actually get them rolling, but once they get rolling, they've got a whole lot of speed here. Of course, almost breaking the 200-mile-per-hour mark. Immediately, we see almost everyone diving it down onto the inside line. Currently stuck up on the high line. That's Jason Mong and Daniel Sparks, both stuck up there. Michael Sparks making the move up to the high line as well. He's going to try and make something happen in that Mountain Dew number 42. But the first driver in the outside line right now is all the way back in 7th. It looks like the lower line is the place to be on this initial restart here. All drivers are back out on the speedway, though. Lucas Lyons still trapped a lap down as Corey Logan got the lucky dog last time by under that yellow. So Lyons is still stuck in 19th. But all drivers have gotten their damage fixed and are back out on the speedway here. The outside line still all the way back in 8th now is the highest spot for the outside line right now. So the inside line pulling away just a little bit of a nudge there as well between Streets and Cofield, two SM Racing Products drivers. And there is Brian Sabelski driving up to the front, diving up to the high line, leading it for a little bit. Not quite able to hang it up there as Derek Murphy drives out in front of him too. But the outside line is making some momentum here in Sabelski. We've seen him sitting back at the tail end of the field here. Sabelski is very experienced in this Arco Menards car and looked poised to take the championship last season until those final couple of races. We could see Sabelski have a bit of a late race comeback here as we get into our final 30 laps of competition here tonight. The outside line seems to be rolling pretty much in full force here. Derek Murphy again finds himself leading this outside line. And we could see him getting close to leading a couple of more laps here because this outside line is catching up on the inside line pretty dang solidly here. Now up to 3rd for Murphy. And he's going to pull it up alongside that 15 machine. And Logan actually came back down pit lane. So now Lucas Lyons still poised to be the lucky dog, but Logan no longer on the lead lap here. What I'm assuming happened is the green flag came out and they found out that their car could not reach top speed here, and that's why they ended up pulling it down pit lane to get a little bit more damage fixed. But that's going to be putting Logan 2 laps down. Logan has to have at least 3 cautions to get back on the lead lap, and with 30 laps left to go, that is possible, but not exactly a position you want to be depending on. Everyone inside your top 13 here is within a second of our race leader, Jonathan Cofield here. Further on back, there's a bit of a gap back to Derek Houston in the number 20, and Brandon Feeney and Jeremy Morrow are both stuck back here in this pack as well. Jeremy Morrow pulling it up high. So once again, maybe, trouble. Derek Houston down on the apron, almost loses control of it there. Keeps it pointed in the right direction, but that is going to cost him a couple of positions here. Almost a little bit of a caution flag in this 3-car battle. 8 seconds back now from the main pack of the field that are now coming up across the start-finish line for lap number 51. Derek Murphy still leads the outside line with Brian Sabelski, right behind him. And they're looking to potentially push their way up to the front of the field here. Side by side, and it's pretty dang close in terms of times. Last time by, Cofield a 46.19, Streets a 46.20, but Murphy a 45.91. Of course, lap times going to be way over the place here because of drafting. Of course, single cars individually by themselves post lap times in the 49 to 50 second range. So being in the draft is a full 5-second difference. But still something interesting to keep an eye on here because all those subtle little differences do matter even in this big gaggle of cars. A little bit of LA traffic at 195 miles per hour. The inside line still seems to be having the advantage here. Murphy and Sabelski just not quite able to get that little bit of energy they need. And there's the lap car. That is Jay DeVries letting the field by here in the number 96. And for those of you who were tuning in last season who might want a little bit of clarification, Jay DeVries and Mike Young are both returning drivers. DeVries was competing under the stage name of Howie Feltersnatch last season, and Mr. Mike Young was Andy Felterbush last season. Of course, we got them to actually use their real names this time around, but just for those of y'all who have been paying close attention, recognize the paint schemes, recognize the numbers. Yes, those are the same drivers from last season, just competing under different names here tonight. One driver down on the apron. That looks like might have been the 62 of TJ Henson having to go down low there in that South Point entry. I'll tell you what, there's one driver that has been more all over the place than TJ Henson. All the way at the tail end of the field, lapped a couple times, been up at the front, not quite been able to lead laps. But TJ Henson has successfully been in every single position in this 19-car field, except for first place pretty much. Currently running back into 12th, still in the battle. And a lot of the fields now looking to try and make the outside line work. That might be the momentum that Murphy needs to get up to the front of this thing. Sounding like they might be coming up on lap traffic again here in a minute. I think I just saw a car down in turns 3 and 4. Not quite sure who that was. It was most likely Corey Logan if I had to guess, but we'll see as we catch up to him down the start-finish line. How about we take a moment to ride on board with these drivers, see what all is going on behind the wheel of these ARCA Menards Chevrolets. I'll tell you what, race fans, for a car that is not 1, not 2, but 3 divisions lower than the NASCAR Cup Series, this little ARCA Menards car sure still manages to put out some pretty impressive speeds out here on these plate tracks. Not quite able to break 200 miles per hour in the draft, but 195 is still nothing to scoff at. Very little time for these drivers to react when something goes awry here. Tell you what, under that little bit of a break, though, Mike Young finds himself leading the field in the Mountain Dew Code Red entry in the outside line, currently running back in the 3rd position. Right behind him, Derek Murphy still trying to make that outside line work, and Brian Sabelski up there on the high line as well. Driver down on the low line, Mr. Bill Watkins, the other driver that we saw kind of towards the tail end of the field, now up near the front in the Sharpie entry. Still 1 and 2 for SM Racing Products teammates Jonathan Cofield and Garrett Street. Little bit of a bobble there for Mike Young coming out of the corner, but he is now nearly side by side for the race lead. That outside line may have less cars, but they once again are finding themselves gaining some momentum. I don't think the top side of the track has quite as much energy to work with as it had in the start of this race, but that's not going to stop these drivers from trying. Any little bit of track you can make work is any sort of consolation here, and you certainly aren't passing the car in front of you by staying behind him, so you gotta try something. And as we get ready to come across the line here in just a couple of seconds, we'll see how the lap times look for our 2 front runners on each respective lane. Sure enough, coming across the line, Cofield last time by a 46.23, Mike Young a 46.29. So definitely a little bit more speed down on the inside line here. We have one driver pulling it way up high, looking like they're trying to form a third lane. That is a lapped car of Lucas Lyons there, trying to make a third lane work. And I'll tell you what, some of these drivers are actually pulling in behind him, trying to follow him through. There is the 45 machine. That is going to be Wyatt up there trying to follow him through. He goes back down onto the lower line. It's a scrape against the wall there for Michael Sparks. A little bit more speed out the corner than he intended to have. And we're now 3 wide once again here at Daytona. As Derek Murphy gets caught out in the middle, no one to help him. No one wants to be in the middle lane together with him. I'll tell you what, when we get to 5 to go, we're going to see that third lane open up right on quickly. But right now, still 19 left to go. No one quite wants to risk pushing it legitimately 3 wide for a longer term here. Fortunately, that's going to bump Murphy all the way back from 3rd down to 10th here. Plows it back into place at the tail end of the high line here. Side by side for the race lead here, Mike Young and Jonathan Cofield as they catch up on that pack of 3. That is going to be Derek Houston, Jeremy Morrow, and Brandon Feeney. 3 drivers, again, that we have seen be up at the front of this race before, now finding themselves getting lapped by the lead pack because they just simply don't have the momentum to work with, and trouble drivers are around, and that looked like, I think that was Feeney going down onto the infield there. Monumental moves to dodge that. It actually looks like might be Jeremy Morrow. Let's see here. Where is Jeremy Morrow on our time of scoring? Sure enough, Jeremy Morrow is the driver who went around in that incident. Big move by Brian Sabelski to avoid it, though. That was really hairy. Let's see if we can't real quick take a look back here and see what all happened to these lapped cars. And sure enough, it actually looks like there was impact with Sabelski there. Let's go a little bit further back, get a better view of things for Jeremy Morrow. Once again, get a little bit of a top-down view. Ooh, sure enough, hard impact with Brian Sabelski. I'll be shocked if Sabelski doesn't have enough damage from that to have to pit. Let's jump back to live here, and sure enough, Sabelski is down on pit lane. Definitely having some, ooh, yeah, major right front damage to that 85 machine. That might be Sabelski's night over, because that wheel is definitely way bent in. And sure enough, jumping back up to the front of things, we're 3 wide for the lead once again. Why not Cofield, Young, and that's a lapped car up on the 3rd lane here. That is still Lucas Lyons, trapped a lap down, but racing like he isn't. Right behind him, that is the 45 entry. So Shane Wyatt is on the lead lap here, but the 25 is not. And potentially trouble back in the back. There's one driver off the track. That's Jason Gardner. Daniel Sparks is also down in the grass. Green flag is still up in the air for the time being. Both drivers make it back onto the speedway. No caution flag is being thrown. Both of them are getting rolling again. Jason Gardner comes down onto pit lane, it looks like. Nope, he's actually staying out on the speedway. Let's take a real quick look back at that incident while we have a moment here. And already both drivers are around, so let's rewind it a little bit and see if we can't get a better view of things. Oh, just a little bit of a stack up. Daniel Sparks gets into the back of Jay DeVries, and chaos ensues. No caution flag coming out for that incident, though, so green flag still up in the air, and it's still all over the place for the race lead with 14 laps left to go, and Mike Young now finding himself leading laps for the first time here this evening, up in front of Jonathan Cofield, right behind Garrett Hess. So it looks like the SM Racing Products team starting to get broken apart here just a little bit, and wow, without those teammates to work with, might be finding themselves in a little bit of an uncomfortable situation. I say that Garrett Hess immediately jumps up to the high line, allowing Cofield and Streets to get back together. Then again, there's that 45 of Shane Wyatt just behind, going to follow him down onto the low line. Hess caught out to dry, in the double zero. Not the place to be. Derek Murphy gets a little bit of a nudge push below the yellow line there, still keeping it on the speedway though. 13 laps left to go, still 9 cars in this lead pack duking it out for the race win. I believe at this rate everyone should be good to make it to the end on fuel, so it's just a matter of patience, skill, and maybe a little bit of luck. It's super speedway racing. Anything can happen, and there's anything happening right there. Big wiggle for Shane Wyatt and for Mike Young. Both drivers nearly ending up down on the apron. Both managed to save it. But now everyone's up on the high line. The high line is now the place to be, as our used-to-be race leader now finds himself getting shunted all the way back to 5th, just like that. Garrett Streets now leading the way of Shane Wyatt just behind. Then it's going to be Garrett Hess and Michael Sparks. This is the highest we've seen Michael Sparks be all evening in that classic Mountain Dew entry. There's a lap car swerving to get out of the way. That's Brian Sabelski not wanting anything to do with that. No, that's Brandon Feeney. This front of his car is just so messed up that the red looks orange. That is Feeney having to swerve out the way for these race leaders. Side by side for the two Garretts now, Streets and Hess leading the front row. Hess down on the low line, Streets up high in the SM Racing Products entry. Bit of a wiggle just behind for Michael Sparks as the outside line pushes their way up to the front. 11 laps left to go here at Daytona. The big question mark up in the air is, will we see a caution flag? If we do, Lucas Lyons will be the driver put back up on the lead lap, and that could be a very scary sight to see, because again, Lucas Lyons is the driver that went last to first in a matter of about 2 laps at the start of this event. At 58 of Jonathan Cofield looking to try and push it 3 wide here. Will it stick? Right now it's looking all right, but he's not quite clear. Derek Murphy. Murphy is going to see that and just back off. Murphy does not want a 3 wide situation right now, and I do not blame him. That is going to filter Murphy back to 6th now, down on the outside line. And now Streets clear for the front. He can move wherever he wants, should he want to. And it's Daytona. I'm sure we're going to see some crazy blocks thrown in these final 10 laps. But right now, Streets leads the way. Garrett Hess trying to make the momentum work on the low line. He's getting pushed down there by Michael Sparks, but Streets has it for the time being. Everyone getting a little wiggly back here down into 3 and 4. Trouble as Jason Mong down on the apron. Big slide. And then Bill Watkins into the outside wall at the same time, also having a bit of an incident there. And 3 wide once again, as we now have 3 lanes working up at the front. It's still Garrett Streets trying to figure out which of the 3 lanes he wants to block here. Tries to keep it in the middle. Garrett Hess now gets up to the front of the race. 9 laps left to go here at Daytona, and these drivers are starting to get real impatient with each other. Big bump there from the 45. That is Shane Wyatt giving Streets a little bit of a nudge. Manages to keep it pointed in the right direction, but we're 3 wide for 4th on back. I mean, everyone's playing nice for right now, but as we cross the line, 8 laps left to go. I don't know how much nice these drivers have left in them. This is for the first win of season number 13. This is a big deal, especially as a double points race. This will give you a very comfortable cushion to work with for the next couple of races this season. Particularly, this is even more important than normal because with next Monday being Christmas, of course we aren't going to be holding a race on Christmas. So this is the first season of ASRC Oval Series competition that will not be a full 12 weeks in length. So this win matters even more than it normally would. 3 wide for the lead. Drivers are getting a little bit of wibble wobbly, and there are lapped cars up ahead. Why not push it 4 wide? That lap car, that's the 20 of Derek Houston pulling it down onto the apron. He wants nothing to do with that. I would imagine we're going to see the same out of Jason Gardner here in just a minute. Of course, Jason's on the apron, or on the banking. Trying to pull down to the apron on the banking is a very dangerous game to play, but Gardner's going to pull it down onto the apron, and that will break up the 3 wide for the lead. But I still believe there's a 1 more lap car that these drivers need to get around, but they're immediately right back to being 3x3. Why not? Garrett Hess leads the way down the bottom, and there's contact. Oh, everyone hangs on to it. No, they do not. Caution flag out on the speedway. Monumental damage for Bill Watkins. He wasn't even involved in that initial caution. Oh, man. Caution number 3 out on the speedway with 6 laps to go. And that was such a high-speed incident that the camera crews are not even registering any of these cars as having wrecked. So we're going to have to do a little bit of sleuthing here to actually figure out what all went wrong. And I'll tell you what, race fans, that's what we have the slow-mo camera for. Currently looking down at Mike Young in the 45, but I think the initial contact was actually further up. No, the contact was between Mike Young and the 44. Or no, if the 45 was Shane Wyatt, they drift up to the high line. The 58 and the 25 both smack against the outside wall. Then the 45 of Wyatt comes back down into Shane Young. But then the initial contact really actually happens between Michael Sparks, and I believe that that is the 20... Who is that back there? That's one of the SM Racing Pro. I believe that's Lucas Lyons that was involved down there. Several drivers around. Then, of course, we have Jason Mon getting launched down onto the infield together with Bill Watkins. And Bill was an unfortunate bystander there, and I think he got the most severe damage of any of the other drivers. Let's jump a little bit further back, take another look at that, get the top-down view of everything that just happened. Of course, Jonathan Cofield up here involved in it. Really just a tragic incident for everyone involved, but that's Daytona for you. But oh, just a massive impact down there for Jason Mong and Bill Watkins. I think those two were definitely the two most heavily impacted by that incident. So caution flag out on the speedway. I believe it's going to be a green-white checkered when we go green flag racing again. There are overtime attempts here in the ASRC Oval Series. So it is still possible that we could see a little bit of drama go on here. But not quite the end of the race one way or another. Currently 5 laps left to go. Once the lights go out on the pace car, I believe we should go green with 3 to go. A couple of drivers down on pit lane right now, though. Michael Sparks down there, Jason Gardner down there, Jay DeVries down there, Morrow and Feeney also down there as well. Gardner on his way out of pit lane here. But currently, only 8 drivers still up here at the front of things. Garrett Hess, Garrett Streets, Mike Young, Shane Wyatt, Derek Murphy, TJ Henson, Jonathan Cofield, and Jason Mong are still the drivers on the lead lap, still out on the speedway right now. Cofield and Mong and Henson all elected to pit under this yellow. Hess, Streets, Mike Young, Shane Wyatt, and Derek Murphy all making the call to stay out here. But one way or another, things could be very messy in these final 5 laps once we go green flag racing once again. Will we see the lights go out on the iRacing.com pace car this time by? Yes, we will. So it will be 3 to go when the drivers take the green. And provided they make it 2 laps, then the race will end at its scheduled distance. But this is Daytona we're talking about. We're asking a lot of these drivers to make it 2 laps without any sort of shenanigans going on. So if not, maybe prepare yourself for a little bit of overtime here in round number 1 of the Oval Series. It's going to be the 2 Garretts making up the front row. Garrett Hess down on the low line. Garrett Streets up high. Then it's going to be Shane Wyatt, Mike Young, row 2. TJ Henson, Derek Murphy, row 3. Cofield and Mong for row 4. Then Sparks and Gardner for row 5. And those 10 cars are actually the remainder of the cars still on the lead lap. Lyons, DeVries, 1 lap down. Morrow, Feeney, and Watkins and Houston are 2 laps down. Sabelski is about 7 laps down. Daniel Sparks a full 10 laps, and Corey Logan nearly 20. And it looks like Corey has retired from the race here this evening. It's going to be 3 to go when we cross the line here. Lights are out on the pace car. I'll tell you what, race fans, hold on to your horses. I think things are going to get a little bit messy in these final couple of laps. Sure enough, going out of turn number 4, the iRacing.com pace car is going to retreat to the safety of pit lane. It wants nothing to do with what is about to go down in these next couple of laps. Let's see what these drivers can do, race fans. 10 drivers still on the lead lap. 3 laps left to go. Varying states of damage on all of these cars. But the green flag is up in the air, and we are already doing a little bit of bumping and banging and taking the green flag here. So far, so good, but that 44 of Mike Young has a little bit more speed than both of the Garretts here. It's just a matter of figuring out how are you gonna use it and get up there. Big move just a little bit further back. That is the 58. That is Jonathan Cofield making a big move up to the outside line. He wants to have the momentum here because with 3 laps left to go, you don't have a lot of time to be patient anymore. Coming out of 3 and 4, things are looking a-okay for the time being. No, that's actually, yeah, that is 3 and 4, sure enough. Almost 3 wide right behind. That's Jason Gardner thinking about pushing it 3 wide. 2 laps left to go. As long as nobody wrecks in this next lap, then we will end the race next time by, regardless of what all goes down. But of course, if a caution flag flies now, we will go into overtime. Still side by side for Streets and Hess. Both pretty equally matched here. Going down the backstretch, a little bit of an advantage for Streets, but it looks like Hess is going to make that ground back up going down into the corner. A little bit of a wiggle though there for Streets and for Cofield. So far, so good. A bit of wiggling coming out of the corner yet again. These drivers are scaring me, race fans. But white flag is up in the air one more time around the speedway. Next flag ends the race no matter what happens. It's Streets and Hess still up at the front. Everyone is wiggling for any amount of room right behind, but it's looking like Hess has the advantage in the 00 right now. Of course, I say that it is not done and dusted one way or another. Garrett Streets getting some pushes from behind from Jonathan Cofield, but that outside line just does not have the momentum they need. Going through 3 and 4, coming out of the corner. It's going to be a drag race to the right. Drag race to the line here, race fans. Hess pulls up high to block. It doesn't work. They're wrecking across the line. Massive impact across the start-finish line. Exactly what I expect from Daytona. But as our timing scoring has it right now, Garrett Hess is going to take home the win here at the Daytona International Raceway. Then it looks like it should be Mike Young and Garrett Streets rounding out the top 3 here this evening. And that was Garrett Streets wrecking across the line, mind you. Garrett Streets was not pointed in the right direction across that start-finish line, but sure enough, it looks like Garrett Streets will be taking home position number 3 here this evening. But Garrett Hess gets it done here in round 1 of the Oval Series, repeating what he did last season, showing up and winning his first race of the season. And with his claim that he might be competing full-time here in season number 13, this is a very big deal for the driver of that 00 entry. A driver out of Mechanicsville, Maryland in the do-it-yourself 00. Took home 3 wins running part-time here in the ASRC Oval Series. Now takes home his first win here in Season 13 in an attempt to do it full-time. I can't wait to see where this driver is in 11 weeks from now. That said, before we go take it down to interviews, let's go back to that white flag. Let's get a replay of just that entire lap, because I think we have a lot that we need to break down here. Especially that instant across the line at the end. Of course, everything looked pretty good up until the final couple of moments there. Lucas Lyons getting shoved up into the outside wall, going down into 1 and 2. Then it's fairly evenly matched here through down the backstretch. Let's actually take a look here down from the chopper camera, if we can find it. There we go. You have a bit of a top-down view of everything that happened as we cross the line here. Hess up in the front, moves to block, not really sure where the block at, and just a massive incident across the line to seal the deal here at Daytona. We have cars upside down, we have cars airborne. Fortunately, with this being the iRacing.com simulator, everyone is okay. But that sure is one way to finish off the event here tonight. Now don't go anywhere, race fans. We will be back here in just a moment with some words with your top 3 finishers. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back to Daytona. Welcome back to round 1 of season 13 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. And I'll tell you what a crazy way to kick off the season. What a crazy way to kick off the year. But it's going to be Garrett Hess taking home the win here this evening against all odds. You've been all over the field here tonight, but you managed to make it happen. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Get, first first couple days out of the hospital, and I celebrated by getting a league win. So can't complain about that too much.
I mean, if there's ever one thing to do after coming home from a hospital, getting a win at Daytona is quite the way to do it.
Yeah. Very fun racing between everyone here. Great group of people. Uh, I I could have sworn that I threw the race away coming to the line. By moving up near the end, I thought that Mike was gonna make a peek to the outside, so I tried to block that off, and then he never did that. So if the finish line was 50 feet farther up the track, then this would not be a winner's interview for me.
Fair enough. Definitely a very close finish here tonight. It looks like the margin was about wherever it was further out than what my broadcast software measures. So it was pretty dang close here this evening. I guess the big question is coming into tonight, did you have any confidence with this event?
Um, not particularly. Like I'm okay with these cars on plate tracks, but it's one of those things where there's so much there's so much like um variation or there's no like I don't want to say there's no skill, but there's that element of I'm I'm up front because I'm the fastest in the race is not there. It's a lot of super close, super close battling, and you can't. And of course, like everyone says, you can't bump in these cars. So one small misstep would have sent anyone around.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a heck of a race, but a win to your name. You got 3 wins last season running as a part-timer. Now here you are getting your first win in round number one. How do you think this is going to be looking for the rest of your season here? Looks like next week going to Phoenix, so a little bit of experience you can try and take over there.
Um, it's pretty. It's I think it bodes pretty well, but there's still a great group of people here. Um, it's it's definitely gonna be a fun season to do. I'm hoping, of course, everyone hopes to come home with a championship. But I think as long as I'm having some fun, then that'll be the best takeaway from the season.
Good deal. I mean, that sounds like a solid plan to me. For now, though, the microphone's all yours, Mr. Hess. Who do you want to thank for making everything happen?
Well, I wanna thank Team Watson Racing. I want to thank Everfrost. I want to thank Benji Clint Connolly. Um, who else? I want to thank my brother for being awesome. I want to thank uh, MedStar St. Mary's for having such great hospital care while I was in the infirmary. Um, and I also want to thank you guys. I want to thank ASRC for being such a great league. I want to thank you for putting on this broadcast. And I think that's it. Very, very fun race. Very fun race.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out and congratulations on a nail biter of a finish. And I look forward to seeing you next week at Phoenix, or actually, no, 2 weeks from now at Phoenix. We're not racing on Christmas.
Yep. All right. See you then.
And finishing back in position number two by just a hair, Mr. Mike Young. Another driver that has been in basically every part of the field here tonight, but you managed to walk away with a podium. How are you feeling now that everything's said and done?
Oh man, it's hectic. So I'm glad it's over with.
Yeah, I mean, definitely quite the start to your season as well. Took home a win, I believe, in your first ever race here in the league. And now here you are, 2 races winner with a runner-up position. How are you feeling about the remainder of this season?
Well, it's gonna be kind of hard for me. I'm gonna be missing every third race because of work. So I have to get some really good finishes to be a contender to win the championship. So hopefully I continue on with this top 5 pace and get it done.
Fair enough. I mean, you do have the good news to work with that this is one of the double points races, so this gives you a little bit of a cushion to work with for those races that you'll be missing. I think I got asked though, was there any point in this race where you felt confident that you were going to be walking away with the top 5?
Uh, no, not really. I just normally kind of just vibe when it comes to super speedways and let the race happen and come to me. Normally, at the end of the day, you'll be in the top 10 if stay clean. So, and on a good day, you're going to be in the top 5, and on a very, very good day, you're going to win or be on a podium.
Fair enough. I mean, I'll tell you what, for me and everyone tuning into this race, I think vibe is the exact opposite term that we would use for tonight's event. But you know what? If it works, it works.
Indeed, indeed.
That said, next event, Phoenix Raceway. How you feeling heading over there? Particularly the 2008 scan. So there's not going to be the dog leg.
I'm actually not going to be able to make that race. I have to work that day, unfortunately.
Fair enough. Well, I hope to see you as soon as we can, though. And for now, the microphone's all yours, Mr. Young. Who do you want to thank for making everything happen here tonight?
First, I want to thank the ACRC for putting on a great league. I want to thank you for doing a broadcast and taking the time out of the day to do this. I want to thank iRacing for being able to host these type of races and leagues. And I want to thank Jay for getting me back involved in this stuff.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Congratulations on the podium here tonight. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
And finishing back in position number 3, none other than Mr. Garrett Streets. Garrett, you and all of the SM Racing Products team have put on such a heck of a show here tonight, but not quite enough to take home the checkered flag. How are you feeling?
I feel pretty good. We had a lot of fun. That was a really great race, and there was a lot of action throughout the whole field. So yeah, just happy to be a part of it. Unfortunately, we weren't able to come home with a victory. Just had a lot of cars in the field and ended up getting caught up with stuff and lost one by one. There at the end, had a lot of good help from Shane Wyatt and Jonathan Cofield, and unfortunately, the outside line just kind of started to fall apart, and we didn't have anything for Garrett and Mike down on the bottom. But yeah, overall, a great race, a lot of fun, had a lot of good speed, and a good start to the season.
Yeah, definitely a pretty solid start, especially for one of these double points races. And I gotta ask, as the defending champion trying to make it number 2 this season, how much pressure is there on your shoulders to be getting things done?
I don't know. I would love to repeat. It's going to be difficult. I mean, there's a lot of great guys in here. Mike's good, Jay's good, Garrett's good, Brian's back. He's always solid competition. A lot of new faces. Jonathan, Shane, Lucas. They're all really fast. So I don't know that we're the favorite, even though we're the defending champion. But we're going to come out and have as much fun as we can, run as well as we can, and try to pile up 8 good points days and see where we're at the end.
It seems like a solid plan to me. I wouldn't be doing anything different. I guess the big question then is Phoenix Raceway. How are you feeling going to a little bit more of an intermediate track in a couple weeks?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a big change from last week. We had decent pace there last season and ended up in a little tussle, so should we call it, with Brian. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. Phoenix isn't my strongest track. It's not my best type of track, but yeah, we'll head in there and run as good as we can.
Good deal. Well, for now, the microphone's all yours, Mr. Streets. Who do you want to thank for making things happen here tonight?
Yeah, I want to thank Jason and all the guys at ASRC for putting everything on. Brian for admin in the races. I want to thank you for broadcasting. Thanks to everyone for coming out tonight and helping fill the field. It's always a great time with everybody. And I want to thank all the SM Racing Products guys, all the people that help support us in what we do and help spread the word. And want to thank Jeremy for all the work that he does with the SM Racing Products. And then last, I'd like to say thank you and give a shout out to Morgan for watching and cheering me on every week.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Congratulations on the podium here tonight. And I look forward to seeing you in Phoenix here in a couple weeks.
Sounds good, Aiden. We'll see you then.
You heard it here first, race fans, your top 3 finishers here this evening. But of course, we had a whole lot more drivers in the field than just that. 19 drivers. Not quite enough to break the Oval Series attendance record. That still sits at 23 at Martinsville, of all tracks, is where that driver record would set all the way back in 2021. But a 19-car field is still one heck of a show here tonight. And let's take a moment to take a look at how the rest of them shook out here this evening. Of course, Garrett Hess, Mike Young, and Garrett Streets, your top 3 finishers here this evening. That's going to be that 62 of TJ Henson, who was spun out on lap number 1, sent to the tail end of the field, got lapped, managing to bring home a 4th place finish. Back in 5th, rounding out the top 5, that's the 58 of Jonathan Cofield, one of those rookie drivers getting a really solid finish here this evening. Derek Murphy, not quite hitting the mark. He beat 7th place. He finished in 6th here tonight. Still a top 10 finish for that driver of the 78 machine. 7th place is going to go back to the 93. That's the league admin, Mr. Jason Gardner, bringing it home 7th, followed by Jason Mong in the 65, with rookie driver Shane Wyatt back in 9th, and Michael Sparks rounding out the top 10. 11th going to go back to Lucas Lyons in the number 52, followed by Jay DeVries in the number 96. Back in 12th, rookie driver Derek Husted in the 01. That was actually the 20 Home Depot entry, finishing back in position number 13. Followed by the 14th of Brandon Feeney, defending runner-up from last season, bringing it home 14th here tonight. That's going to be Jeremy Morrow in that SM Racing Product 74, rounding out the 15th position. Bill Watkins going to be bringing it home 16th, followed by Brian Sabelski in 17th, Daniel Sparks in 18th, and then not quite able to show it. There we go. Corey Logan in the number 24 machine, rounding out this 19-car field here this evening. I'll tell you what though, race fans, Daytona International Speedway, what a crazy race we had here tonight. I don't think anyone had our drivers that we got the finishes here tonight in our record books. But for now, thank you all for tuning in. Next week we will be off for Christmas, so there will be no competition next week. So we will see you all on we will see you all on New Year's, January 1st at the Phoenix Raceway for round 2 of season number 13. And to kick off the rest of year 4, technically year 4 on the calendar year, but going off of the iRacing calendar, of course, this is already year 4. For now, though, thank you all for tuning in.